Hey there, welcome to this explainer. All right, let's jump straight into a reality of modern finance that, honestly, we rarely stop to think about. When you picture a financial exchange, you might still imagine this chaotic physical trading floor packed with shouting brokers. But the truth? Today's global financial markets are highly complex, completely invisible digital networks. I mean, we're talking massive data centers, incredibly fast fiber optic cables, and automated algorithms executing trades in literal fractions of a second. We've basically traded the paper tickets for low latency connectivity. But as we'll see, that incredible speed and efficiency comes with a whole new set of very real vulnerabilities. So, that leads us to a massive, frankly, terrifying question. What happens when the global financial markets go dark? I really want you to pose this question directly to yourself. Because the financial industry relies so heavily on information technology to execute massive derivative trades and clear daily transactions, an IT failure isn't just some minor inconvenience. It's a full-blown systemic threat. Our complete reliance on these electronic platforms means that a single point of failure can ripple through the entire global economy in a matter of minutes. The stakes quite literally could not be higher. The SASB standards put it incredibly bluntly. They say, quote, "Failure to ensure trading continuity may erode customer trust and results in reduced trading volumes and loss of revenue." So the crucial point here is that technology errors and security breaches don't just cause annoying little screen glitches, they destroy massive amounts of financial value. In the highly competitive world of trading, trust is everything, right? If an exchange can't guarantee that the market will remain open and functional, investors are simply going to take their money and their trades to an alternative platform.
All right, on to the first big area. The threat when technology fails.
So what are we actually dealing with here? Well, the SASB framework gives us a highly specific definition for the absolute worst-case scenario. A significant market disruption is defined as an event in which the exchange ceases to function according to its typical manner and causes or threatens to cause steep market declines. You really have to know the language there. It's not just a momentary pause. It's a failure that directly threatens to trigger a steep market drop. When an exchange ceases to function normally, panic can set in pretty fast, and in financial markets, panic directly translates to immense monetary loss.
Now, what's actually pulling the plug and causing these massive disruptions? The standards require exchanges to categorize these failures, and the list is sobering. First up, we have member actions. This includes those terrifying flash crashes caused by automated, high-frequency algorithmic trading basically going rogue. Then we have pure technology-related disruptions. That covers your everyday computer system failures, but way more worryingly, malicious cyber attacks. We also have to account for basic power losses. And finally, high-risk, low-probability physical incidents like terrorism or extreme environmental events. As automation and digital threats increase, those rogue algorithms and cyber attacks are becoming a massive headache for market regulators.
But here's the thing. A market disruption isn't just about the trading system completely shutting down. There is a parallel threat running alongside it, the data breach. The standard defines this as an unauthorized occurrence that jeopardizes the confidentiality, integrity, or availability of the exchange's information systems. Just think about the sheer amount of highly sensitive corporate and financial data flowing through a commodity or security exchange every single millisecond. A bad actor doesn't necessarily even have to take the market offline to cause havoc. Simply stealing or altering that data is more than enough to shatter market integrity. And, well, we really need to make this personal, because the standards absolutely do. A personal data breach involves the destruction, loss, alteration, or access to personal data of an identified living individual. What's absolutely fascinating here is how strict the reporting requirements actually are. Even if an exchange has its data entirely encrypted, if hackers manage to steal that encrypted data along with the encryption key, or even if there's just a reasonable belief the hackers can convert it back to readable text, it counts as a breach. Your personal data is on the line, and the standards force exchanges to own up to it when it gets compromised.
Moving on to the next part, the solution, measuring and reporting risks.
Take a look at this. The SASB framework outlines specific sustainability disclosure topics. Notice that crucial section at the bottom, managing business continuity and technology risks. This brilliant framework literally forces security and commodity exchanges to transparently report their vulnerabilities to investors. They can't just quietly hide a cyber attack in the IT department anymore. It is officially classified as a fundamental sustainability and business continuity metric that must be published.
Let's look at exactly how this works in practice. under metric code FN-EX-550A.1, an exchange is required to explicitly disclose two very simple but very revealing numbers: the total number of significant market disruptions and the duration of that downtime, measured in hours. There is absolutely no room for vague PR spin here. If your exchange went down because of a computer failure, investors are going to see exactly how many times it happened and precisely how many hours you left them entirely locked out of the market.
But oh, it gets better. It's not enough to just throw out a number and a time frame. The exchange has to publicly admit what went wrong. The standard mandates that for every single disruption, the entity must describe the root cause, the extent of the disruption, and the specific aspects, features, or services of the entity that were affected. Was it the messaging service? Was it a specific low-latency data feed? They have to map out exactly what broke.
And that relentless push for transparency, it continues right into cyber attacks. Metric FNX 550A2 forces entities to track their security failures. They have to report the total number of data breaches. Then they must disclose what percentage of those breaches actually compromised personal data. Finally, and arguably most importantly for consumer trust, they must report the exact number of unique customers affected. If they can't verify that two breached accounts belong to the exact same person, they have to count them separately. They have to lay it all bare.
Now, you might be sitting there wondering, okay, are there loopholes? Can an exchange just claim they shouldn't disclose a breach? The standards are actually very tight on this. The only allowed exclusions are if the entity has a reasonable and supportable belief that the event poses literally zero risk to business performance, zero risk to customers, and zero economic or social disadvantage to individuals. Basically, if it truly doesn't matter. The only real delay allowed is if a law enforcement agency determines that public notification would actively impede an ongoing criminal investigation. Aside from that, the data must be disclosed.
All right, final section. Moving forward, preventing system failures.
This brings us to corrective actions, and I love this part. The SASB standards mandate that whenever an exchange reports a market disruption or a data breach, they must also disclose the specific corrective actions they implemented in response. They literally have to show their work. This could include overhauling operations, completely changing management processes, updating technology, or even firing and replacing specific business partners who failed to keep the system secure. They have to prove they actually learned from the failure. Furthermore, metric FN X550A3 requires a totally proactive approach. Exchanges must provide a detailed description of their ongoing efforts to prevent technology errors, security breaches, and market disruptions before a disaster even strikes. They must describe their policies and practices designed to ensure the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data. It's really about showing investors a culture of continuous security rather than just scrambling to react when the alarms start ringing. Just to give you an idea of how incredibly difficult this prevention actually is, look at the massive footprint of vulnerable data platforms they have to protect. They have to secure their core trading services, which includes trading software, data feeds, and messaging systems. They have to physically and digitally secure their IT infrastructure, which includes co-location facilities, where traders pay to put their servers literally right next to the exchange's servers for an edge, and the low-latency connectivity equipment. They even have to secure the data they provide to third parties, like market regulators. It is a vast, deeply interconnected web where just one weak link can bring the whole shebang down. But there is a massive catch here. It's a really delicate tightrope these exchanges have to walk. The standard specifically notes, quote, "Disclosure shall be specific to the risks, but would not compromise the entity's ability to maintain data privacy and security." It is such a careful balancing act. Exchanges must be transparent enough to maintain investor trust and comply with the accounting standards, sure, but they cannot be so wildly detailed in their disclosures that they effectively hand cybercriminals a step-by-step blueprint to their internal security systems. Which really just leaves us with this final provocative thought to chew on today. As high-frequency trading algorithms get faster, and as cyber attacks become undeniably more sophisticated, is our financial data truly safe from the next big breach? I mean, these accounting standards forcing exchanges to admit when they fail is absolutely a great start for transparency. But the invisible digital nature of modern finance means that the threat of the market going totally dark is a risk that will probably never fully disappear. Thanks for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this helps pull back the curtain on the invisible infrastructure holding our entire financial world together.